Hey guys, so tonight I want to talk about why I think the Portland Trailblazers might actually be a decent team this upcoming season, as y'all can see in the title. Last year, Portland ended the 2024-25 campaign with a 36-46 record, and now they recently let go of DeAndre Ayton, so now Donovan Clingan will have a more of a starting role, and recently to kick off the Blazers offseason, they instantly traded Anthony Simons for Drew Holiday. And recently they drafted Yang Hansen, who's a lot of people say his play style is comparable to one Nikola Jokic, and even Yang himself said that he tries to model his game after Jokic as well. So obviously the Portland Trailblazers have a defensive minded squad now, and that's even more so the case that they'll be better on defense now that they added a two-time champion in Drew Holiday. Obviously the Blazers were less than stellar. They were 21st in defensive efficiency rating, allowing 113.7 a game. So obviously that's not great, but even with that, they had a lot of bright spots on the defensive end. Tamani Kamara actually showed up and showed out. He was second team all defense. I think he was one of the top five guys in the NBA that drew a lot of charges. Let me go look that up real quick. Yeah, Tamani drew 31 charges this past NBA season. He actually led the NBA in charges drawn, and he was ranked ninth in the league with 116 steals. Among NBA sophomores, Tamani ranks second in steals, third in rebounds, 450, fourth in scoring, fourth in three-pointers, and fifth in blocks. I'm reading that off of one of the Trailblazers posts. But yeah, Tamani has been a very, very consistent bright spot for this Portland team. Obviously, you have a guy like Matisse Thybulle as well, which I watched Matisse in Philly. There's a reason why, even though I'm not the biggest Doc Rivers guy, there's a reason why Doc Rivers put Matisse in those positions to where, okay, let's say Ben Simmons is in foul trouble or James Harden needs a blow on the bench for defensive purposes. You put Matisse out there to defend the other team's best perimeter player. Denny Avdija is also a bright spot for the Portland Trailblazers defensively. Uh, Denny is a versatile and he's probably one of the more disciplined defenders in the NBA. He's capable of switching. He's capable of help defense, and of course, he has seen improved stats in rebounds, blocks, and steals as well. And then you have Donovan Clingan. I've seen Donovan in college shut down Zach Edey. He's shown that he can be a very, very good shot blocker. And obviously he was one of the best in college. And I feel like in this league, I feel like he has a lot of potential to be the best shot blocker in basketball. Now, obviously, I don't need to say much on Drew Holiday. I've talked about him so many times on this channel. But I will say this much as well. I'll add to this. He could be what Chris Paul was with the Spurs last year. That savvy vet that could help a young team like the Blazers navigate their way in the league. And he could be the defensive leader and sometimes the offensive leader as well. And again, he's a two-time champion. Now, one of the biggest moves that the Blazers are actually, I don't want to say the biggest move, but one of the moves that Portland did that really made a lot of noise was getting back Damian Lillard for 3 years and $42 million. Obviously, for Dame, this is a much different scenario than when he was originally with Portland, when he had those teams with Batum, Aldridge, Wes Matthews, and then you had Dame and CJ, and then those teams with Norman Powell and Carmelo Anthony and Robert Covington. Obviously, Dame is in a much different scenario because he has a more defensive-minded team. But most importantly, I do not believe he'll be the main option when he comes back from injury in the 2026-27 campaign. Obviously, there is a reason why the Blazers traded Anthony Simons because he's not a great defender, but he could score at will. But you give a guy like Scoot Henderson a lot more of a green light because I feel like with Anthony being the main focal point of the team, it kind of held Scoot back from reaching his full potential. I think Anthony Simons gives an opportunity for Chauncey to say, you know what, Scoot, you have the green light. You're going to be our main guy on offense. Now, obviously, his first two seasons were not as stellar. His first season, 2023-24, he averaged 14 a game. This past season, he averaged 12.7. And this past season, Scoot shot the ball at a pretty effective clip, or efficient clip, I should say. 42% from the field, 35% from three. And even though he has been relatively healthy his first two seasons, he played 62 his rookie year and 66 his second year. I think it's going to be kind of interesting because he's more so coming off the bench now. I do think, again, with the departure of Anthony Simons, I think Chauncey will put him in the starting lineup and give Scoot more of a green light. And obviously, that depends on how much Scoot Henderson has worked on his game and how to be a much more efficient scorer. And this is where Drew Holiday comes in because Drew and Dame too. Dame can also be that ringleader for him. Those two, I think, will help shape Scoot Henderson into the player and the scorer he wants to be. There's a reason why the Blazers picked him at number 3 in the 2023 draft. All right, let me backtrack here. Shaden Sharp was actually the starting shooting guard next to Anthony Simons last year. I thought my bad, y'all. But Shaden has also a pretty efficient scorer. Last season, he averaged 18 a game. His second year in the league, he averaged 16 a game. So he's not a bad player. And I think he's a little more productive offensively than Scoot Henderson, even though Scoot is the number 3 pick. I do believe Scoot should be given a chance to be in the starting lineup. Now, I don't know his exact stats for when Scoot is starting, but in my opinion, I think he should be the starter. And then you have Shaden come off the bench, unless if Chauncey is going to stick with Shaden Sharp in the starting lineup, and then you have Drew Holiday as the number 1 with guys like Jeremy Grant and Denny, and then obviously Donovan Clingan will be the starting caliber. Well, it's not starting caliber. He will be the starting center now that DeAndre Ayton's out of the picture, and then Yang Hansen comes off the bench. But regardless, I think the pickups of Drew and obviously getting Dame back, and he'll be the coach next to the coach, obviously, since Dame will be in street clothes because of his blown Achilles. Shaden and Scoot, I think, will benefit immensely from having those guys on the team. I think Drew will raise will raise the floor for this Portland team. Obviously, Drew is a ceiling raiser, but that's for contending teams that needed that final piece. Now, Drew Holiday is in a point of his career where he can be a guy that can raise a young team's floor. Obviously, we saw him do it with Boston. He raised their ceiling. Milwaukee, he helped raise their ceiling, which is why those teams got titles. But with a team like the Blazers, I feel like he can help raise his team's floor because I don't think this team has a ceiling just yet. And that's not me knocking the Blazers. I'm not saying they will not. They definitely will. But I think Drew Holiday will be a floor raiser for this young team. Now, going back to Scoot Henderson, I actually read an article from the Rip City Project, which is one of the Portland Trailblazers fan journals, pages, things, whatever you call it. But they mentioned something about how Scoot Henderson has no excuses to not capitalize. Scoot is in a rare and ideal position, especially since Drew is one of the 3 to be cutting into his on-court minutes and production for the 2025-26 season. And yes, I'm reading off the article, but I'm not reading it off verbatim. All signs point to Scoot for a breakout season because of his increased role, improved play, and valuable mentors. And for some context about that statement, y'all, this article also did say that Scoot became a much better overall decision maker as he finally seemed comfortable adjusting to the pace in the NBA, whereas in his rookie year, he forced the issue too much. So Scoot Henderson has the potential to live up to that number 3 overall pick, especially with the mentors he has, and I think the shift in identity that this Blazer team will have. And I do want to touch up on a couple more things before I let y'all go. First of all, I forgot to talk about him. Shout out to Jeremy Grant. He's also going to be another key vet for this young Portland team. Obviously, he's been with the team for 3 going into 4 seasons. But I think for this particular Blazer team, now that they added Drew and then the addition of Yang Hansen via the draft, Jeremy Grant will be what Tobias Harris is for Detroit. For some context, y'all, the Detroit Pistons' 2 main scorers are obviously Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey. Jalen Duren is also, he has the potential to be a 20 and 10 guy as well. But as of right now, with how this Piston team is constructed, Tobias can be, or he is that supplementary scorer next to Cade and Ivey when they needed a much-needed basket. Obviously, it wasn't really too much of the case these past playoffs, but you get the idea. I think Jeremy Grant will be the same type of guy Tobias is next to guys like Shaden Sharp, next to Scoot Henderson, next to Denny, next to Clingan, and all those other cats. And lastly, I want to talk about Chauncey Billups before I let y'all go. Chauncey, while the records do not show it, I do think Blazer fans should give Chauncey a chance because, yeah, his records ain't pretty. Obviously, in his 4-year career, he has a 35-36 win percentage. But let's keep in mind, those rosters that he had in 2021-22, 2022-23, and 2023-24, okay, he had CJ and Norman for like half a year, but even with that, those Blazer teams sucked. Outside of Dame, those Blazer teams, those Blazers teams in Chauncey's first 2 years, with the exception of Dame, sucked. 2023-24 with DeAndre Ayton, the Blazers sucked. But this year, you saw a much improved record with going 36 and 46. I think Chauncey's getting better at coaching. I feel like he's starting to find a scheme that kind of works and that can keep up to par with today's NBA. But I think with guys like Drew Holiday coming onto the squad, and obviously the improvements of Shaden and Scoot and all those other factors, Dame going to be the assistant coach. This is an opportunity to show that Chauncey can be a much better head coach than people give him credit for. Because I honestly do think Chauncey's a better coach than people give him credit for. Obviously, those records that he had, obviously it doesn't look pretty. But again, those Blazer teams sucked. I do think this is a chance for Chauncey to show that he is a good coach in this league. Because I've seen it with guys like Jason Kidd. Obviously, he got shat on those finals with Luka and Kyrie. But a lot of people have been very high on J. Kidd. For his first year with Dallas, they got to Western Conference Finals. Second year, they missed the playoffs, but they were kind of in a weird transition, and they traded one of their I won't say franchise pieces, but one of their glue guys from 7 years in Dorian Finney-Smith to the Brooklyn Nets. And then, obviously, they missed the playoffs, even with Luka and Kyrie. But 2023-24, they restructured their roster and they made a deep finals run. And J. Kidd coached to the best of his ability last season, especially when they went through that really weird phase of life without Luka in Dallas. J. Kidd still coached himself a good team, and I think he's a good coach. I just think there are teams. Dallas was able to give him a chance because, yeah, he sucked in Brooklyn. He sucked in Milwaukee, but I think the difference is with Brooklyn, they were just full of old geezers that were really not going to go anywhere, especially with LeBron on the heels at the time. But when it came to the Milwaukee Bucks, these are not the same Milwaukee Bucks that we've seen the last 2-3 years when Chris Middleton was still on the squad. The Milwaukee Bucks were still a young team that were trying to find their identity. Giannis and Chris Middleton weren't really established players yet. Yeah, they were all-stars, but I didn't think they established themselves, or when it comes to like structure or stature in the NBA, if that makes sense. They really haven't established themselves in the league until like the 2018-19 season, and obviously they cemented themselves as potential Hall of Famers. In the case of Giannis, he is a Hall of Famer. Chris Middleton could be a Hall of Famer himself. Obviously, he'll be in the Bucks Hall of Fame. But the point is, J. Kidd did not coach that team. He coached a Bucks team that was struggling to find their identity. And obviously, those Bucks teams weren't as good as the one that we saw in 2021. Now, my point about Chauncey is the same thing. Yeah, it's going to look bad when you have bad rosters. But I do believe with a much more improved roster, especially with the addition of Denny, and then you saw the improvement of play of Scoot Henderson. Shaden Sharp is upping his scoring, and even with DeAndre Ayton as their starting center, and all those other factors, Matisse Thybulle looking like a damn good defender, and Toumani Camara being the bright spot he is. I do think that with a guy like Drew Holiday, this is a chance for Chauncey to show that he is a good coach. And I do believe that Chauncey is a good coach. You just haven't given him a team to coach with, because you need the players. And he really hasn't had that outside of Anthony Simons and all those other guys. And then we saw an improvement record-wise with last year's Portland team. So they got better. And I do think you'll see a leap in Chauncey's coaching as well. Now, obviously, if things don't pan out the way Portland fans wanted to, obviously he deserves no excuse. But I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt that those other teams sucked, but this team does not, and they actually have a potential to sneak into the play-in. I don't think they're going to be a top 6 seed in a tough Western Conference, but I do think if you face this Portland team in the play-in, just watch out and stay ready, because this team, while they may not be OKC, and then Denver got better, and all these other teams, I don't think they'll be the best defense in basketball, but I do think with the addition of Drew, they will be a top 10 defense. And again, the improvement of Toumani Camara, Matisse Thybulle getting a consistent role along with Denny. This Blazer team, they may mess around and break some hearts. And they may mess around, and I'm not gonna say they're gonna win the championship, but they may shock the world in a playoff game, 1 game series like the play-in tourney, or they may take a team to 7 games because I do believe that's how good this Blazer team could potentially be. But I want to leave it to you guys. What do you guys think? Do you think Portland got better? Do you feel like Portland's going to be the same old sucky Blazers team, even with the additions of Drew and them getting back Dame? Uh, and do you guys feel like we'll see an improved play of Scoot Henderson? Or do you think Shaden Sharp will still be starting? Obviously, there's going to be a lot of questions about who's going to be the starting one between Scoot and Drew. I personally don't think that should be the case, but it is what it is. And what are you guys' thoughts on Chauncey Billups as a coach? Do you love him? Do you hate him? Do you think he got better, or do you feel like he's only going to be worse from here? Obviously, I think he's a good coach, but I want to leave it to you guys. More off-season videos coming soon. I got a gameplay video on Mortal Kombat that I'm going to be posting either tonight or tomorrow night. But that's the end of this video. I'm X. Deuces.